What's up, everybody? Welcome to a side chat with myself, Joel Rafidi, and my co-host Yerasimos. Would this be number 3 or 4?
I think this might be side chat number 3. I think we've only
this.
posted 2 of them to the website.
I think this might be 3 as well. If you're hearing this or listening to this, the first 2 are available on YouTube and our website. We didn't flick them out to audio, but we'll probably put this one out there. So be sure to go back and check those out as well. This is just a 20-minute conversation with Yerasimos and I, and I'm going to flow today on the importance of the mind. And I think this is such an important topic, particularly within, quote unquote, truth communities. There's been this movement of sorts the last, decade, and obviously even longer as well, where there's this attack on the mind almost. They want to separate you from your mind. You are not your mind. Your thoughts are just transient. Your thoughts don't really serve power. There's a push for you to be without your thoughts on some level. So I want to start. What are your thoughts on that from a broader general perspective first, Yerasimos?
Well, listen, we talk so much about deprogramming from New Age ideologies, and you think about a lot of Eastern modalities, mysticism. It's like the no mind, in that regards. And it's like, at the end of the day, what separates us from other beings is that man has the ability to think. Man has the ability to use his or her mind. And so the more you're able to use your mind consciously with a level of self-awareness and use it productively, you're going to be able to create the life that you want to create. Like this idea of like, just, get rid of the mind, get rid of the ego. Like what does that do? But besides create a nobody, a nothing. And how can you act? How can you be in the world? How can you make things happen? How can you have the motivation to wake up in the morning, to go after your life, to go after your dreams, go after your desires, to improve on yourself, to utilize your mind, to introspect, to go, hey, why am I the way I am? I noticed this behavior about myself. I noticed this thing that my mom and dad did, and I do the same exact thing that I don't like it. What can I do to change that? Or I'm in partnership, and, every time my wife says this, I react in a certain way. Why do I do that? You need to be able to have a strong mind, a curious mind, to ask these questions and then to hold space for it. You know what I mean? So this idea of getting rid of the mind, no mind, is like, it sounds great in this like fantasy world of like, yes, we want peace and love and calm, but what does it really mean? The mind is the mind. It's there to think. It's there to move.
Like, how do you even have a grasp on reality without your mind? How do you know who you are, where you are, and how you're oriented within reality if you don't have the mind and the faculties of the mind? Why is there a desire to become a nobody? What's at the premise of that? What's at the root of that? Because I was there, and I tampered with these ideologies early on. I read a lot of, Ram Dass, Eckhart Tolle, things like that. And it's all about becoming nobody, literally dropping the personality altogether to the point where you relinquish all your barriers between you and the world, and you just end up as this nothing in this formless abyss of nothing. And I mean, the more that I contemplate the drivers that would lead someone to be attracted to something like that, it's escape. At the root of it, it has to be escape. It's, I cannot reconcile my thoughts. I cannot reconcile my past. I cannot reconcile my actions. I've lived my life a certain way up until this point. Now, all of a sudden, there's this shiny light, which says that I don't have to worry about any of it. I can drop all of it. I can release my mind. I can release my past. I can release my ego, and I'll be free from it. That's what I've noticed. But it doesn't work. It's never going to work. It might work for a short period of time, but ultimately you have this thing called the shadow, which is going to creep up and is not going to go anywhere. It's going to keep prodding, poking, and seething out from in between the barricades that you've built and show itself in your life on some level. And how do we deal with that? How do we deal with life? How do we deal with the challenges and the complexities that reality presents to us? And the
You
answer
need a
is your
mind.
mind. Yeah, the answer is your mind. It's the only way that you can think about yourself, think about the past, think about your actions, and reconcile all of that to come to a place of groundedness and centeredness and true acceptance in terms of the acknowledgement of our predicament. It's all done with the mind.
Yeah. And also, I know we've commented on this privately before when we talk about the mind, we talk about reason. What is reason? What is the term reason? You know, we talk about these systems like human design that obviously, you know, I'm a fan of, and you are as well. And it's like, well, okay, if we think about the term reason, all right, we're literally taking all the information, the wisdom that we're getting from our environment, that we're taking into our senses. Okay, so people talk about the word intuition, they talk about your feelings. Again, if you're having an experience, if you're getting a hit from intuition, if you're having an emotional experience, ultimately there's like a dance between your mind that's going, oh, okay, I'm having this experience right now, or I got this little hit right now, what am I going to do with it? So even if a person wants to come on and say like, okay, well, your intuition or your emotions, you can't, that's going to guide you through life too. You can't just say the mind's just gonna guide you. Like, they're connected.
Yeah.
You know, how do you create concepts out of those non-conceptual things that you're experiencing?
Yeah. We're taking in all this material from all our senses, including what we know about ourselves through these systems of divination, be it human design, be it whatever it might be. We're taking in all this data, all this information. Then ultimately, there's a driver that's accumulating all that and saying, with everything that I know and everything that I can sense, what is the best action for me now? What is the best decision? How can I take all that data, all that information, and pinpoint what the right thing for me to do is at this point of time? And to me, that's what we're kind of grasping at with this idea of the mind. You know, I mean, ultimately, every advancement that we've ever had as a species has come because of man's ability to think, you know? And now all of a sudden to say, I don't want to think anymore, to me, this is very much so intrinsically linked to the want to return to a womb-like state, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, I feel like, a regressive tendency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happens with a lot of these systems is ultimately, or these ideologies, is a person might be in a certain place. Let's say they're living this like hedonistic life, or they're working that job that they've hated for 30 years, but they made a lot of money. And then all of a sudden they take a trip to India and it's like, well, this is the answer. You know, you've talked about this before. And
Yeah.
so then they flip, they kind of shift, they shed one costume and then they put on another costume. Okay. But then maybe ultimately, I think the idea is then to come back to some place of, I would say, balance, but understanding that the role these different elements of yourself play within you. It's not like again, getting rid. I'd love someone to stand in front of me and go, right now, I've gotten rid of my mind. Like, just to even tell me that you've gotten rid of your mind, you have to use your mind.
Yeah.
So, like, what does that even mean? Like, sitting in a cave somewhere with your eyes closed, doing nothing? Like, cool. If you want to do that, you can do something. But if you want to be in the world, if you want to be creative, you want to be productive, you have to use your thinking faculties.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you know, I mentioned something of the sort on Instagram recently as well. But it's also like the same thing when um you're heightening stillness and peace, which I totally respect and it has a place to understand it, but you're heightening it as the ultimate endeavor of any kind of spiritual work or any kind of, you know what I mean, work to know yourself. When I mean, ultimately, there's plenty of things that you don't want to be at peace with. And I said this, right? Like, you don't want to be at peace with ignorance. You don't want to be at peace with depravity. You don't want to be at peace with mediocrity. You don't want to be at peace with not knowing who you are, with not knowing your values, not knowing your goals, and not knowing that your potential to actually reach them, you know? So of course, peace and stillness it has a place, but to me, it's more so to do with the nervous system than it is to be in this place of, you know what I mean? Okay, now I've reached the samadhi, the pinnacle, because I'm not thinking anything. There's just there's a bliss, an ocean there. Like, to me, that is not the ideal in any way whatsoever, you know? And to be honest, like, meditation for me isn't really a stillness practice. It's a contemplative practice. And in that contemplation, I'm using my mind. I'm giving myself the time and the space to actually reflect on the things that I haven't had the space to reflect on, and to reconcile them and to make them known, to allow them to come up, you know? But to me, that's a process that I'm doing with my mind as well.
Yeah, and I think sometimes meditation is used as a tool uh, to spiritually bypass, to
Mhm.
disconnect from what's really happening. Because even for me, when I have utilized meditation as a practice, I want to bring my whole body into it.
Yeah.
I want to bring the soma. I want to notice what's going on in the subtle levels, what sensations are happening in my body. Oh, wow, that's interesting. That thought came in, and then there's an emotion that came along with it. Can I give myself the space to sit with it, to feel with it, to feel it? And then again, there's information there that I'm going to gather, and I'm going to process it with my mind as well, because my mind is going to pinpoint, oh, okay, I just had this feeling. Oh, I just had this thought that went along with it. So again, it's like this idea with no mind. Where is the computer that's taking in all this data?
Yeah.
That you're gathering through life experience, through all the different ways that one experiences the world.
Yeah. And like, it can be, I see how people can lose the point of it when it's like, oh, you mean the mind? To me, the mind is not just your head. All right. Of course, your brain plays a huge part in what it is to think and to do and to act, you know, and it plays a huge part of what I'm referring to as the mind. But when you bring the soma into it, we're talking about the body mind here as well. You know, like your what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think there's we like to separate the words,
Yeah.
because it's easy to talk about them. But at the end of the day, like, they're intertwined. There's a synergistic. There is a body mind. If you change your mindset, the way you think is going to have an impact on your body too. You can also do that on the flip side. If you're doing some really intentional work with the physical body, you're going to impact the way your mind operates as well. So I think you need to look at them as like kind of the same thing in some regard. But I get this idea of like, oh, I got to get rid of the mind,
Mhm.
like what people say. But it's more nuanced, a little deeper than that. I don't know if this is making sense, but
No, it makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
you
Okay.
know.
So, to anyone listening to this that is not happy with where they are, you know what I mean? They're not fully content with their life, with the decisions they've made, with what their daily routine looks like, what their life looks like each time they wake up. There is a way out of it, you know? And the way out of it is to take a stark look at reality, to truthfully assess your situation, truthfully acknowledge where you are, and also truthfully recognize what your values are. And then using your mind to notice the dissonance between your values and between what is being reflected in your daily actions and in your reality. Your mind is your machete. It is the weapon that you have in order to deal with reality, in order to transform your life into something that is not congruent with you as an individual who has goals and values, into something that is. And when that's a challenge, that's not easy by any means. But the thing is, life is not easy by any means. This reality is not easy. You leave a house, it's going to collect dust. Everything requires work. Everything requires effort for hygiene to be maintained. And your life, your mind, your psyche, it's absolutely no different. Effort is required. But what I'm seeing a lot is that people feel too entitled to want to exert the effort to create psychic hygiene or to create a life that is conducive with them. But in exerting the effort and in getting the results and achieving and making the steps necessary, you begin to develop the strength of your mind. You begin to develop trust in your mind. You begin to develop trust in your capacity to deal with the complex challenges of life. So we have to exercise it. To me, there's just absolutely no way around that. For anyone that claims to be a truth seeker, you know, the highest truth is your truth. The highest truth is what you value. The highest truth is you looking at yourself, looking at this realm, saying, what am I? Who am I? What is going on? And how can I live my life to be the best experience possible for who I am and for what I want? And that's a big task.
Yeah.
But you got to think, how do I go about that? What's out of place, and what actions do I need to take to start moving some pieces?
You know, it's interesting because as you shared all that, all the questions that you're putting out there. What are my goals? What are my values? Where am I now? You know, where do I want to go? What do I need to do to get there? How can someone that's striving for a no mind experience, a no mind existence, going to get answers to those questions? Is going to be able to take action to improve their state in life? Like, I just don't understand this well, I guess we talked about it before, this love affair with some of these more, I call them pseudo spiritual practices and ideologies. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, I know what you mean. And the thing is, as you were saying that, what was coming to me was that it's actually self-masochism. At the root of it, it's self-hatred, you know, the want to drop the mind and to not use the mind. You've decided now, you know, I mean, I can't deal with myself. I can't deal with the burden that I've built for myself, and I can't deal with the reality. So the answer to me is to become nothing and to become nobody.
Mic drop right there. No, I agree. But again, it gets lost in these lofty ideals and all the pretty words and all the gowns and all these ancient texts sometimes. And it's just like,
Yeah.
you're here right now. What's going on with you? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? What kind of human being, uh, do you want to be? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you
Yeah, bro. I hear you, man. But it's like
a mind fuck. Like, sometimes when I hear some of this thing, I just feel like it's like this mind fuck that people get like caught up in.
yeah,
Period.
yeah. And the problem is, man, is that this whole savior complex as well. We are so desperate to want to find someone else that has the answers. You know, we're so desperate to cling to this idea of faith. You know, but the more I think about faith, I'm like, what is that? Like, to me, faith is it's the calling card of you being unwilling to produce yourself, of you being unwilling to be your own savior. That's the only requirement for faith. Like, to me, in being my own savior, in using my mind to reconcile my life, to know for the fact that I've been in a place where I hated my life, I hated my work, I couldn't stand myself. And to know that I recognized that and I thought about it and I wanted to change so bad that I exerted effort to shift to now be in a place where, like, I'm so happy, I'm so proud of who I am, of what I'm doing, of what I have to offer every single day, of what my life mirrors and reflects back to me. Like, I'm my own savior. Like, I did that. The faith that I have is in myself and in my own ability.
Yeah, for sure. And part of that process of awareness too is to be able to feel all of this stuff too. I mean, we talk about self-sabotage, we talk about people that escape into these self-soothing mechanisms. You need to be able to feel the pain of the existence that you're experiencing, the pain of reality, in order to know, I don't like the way this feels. I have to make changes again. and you're going to be using reason. You're going to be using your mind. You're going to be using the information that you get from your intuition, from your emotions as well, to make decisions in your life, to better yourself. So again, this is a whole other area of self-knowledge and self-awareness. Is like, hey, can you sit with yourself? Can you turn the gaze inwards? Because we live in a world where everything's external. We're just focused on everything outside of ourselves. But can we look internally and go, man, I show up to my job and I feel this thing or this pain in my stomach, or I feel a tightness around my chest, or I've been in this relationship for 2-3 years and like I just like I have anxiety, or I'm just not happy. Like, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to change? What do I need to say? How can I express my needs? How can I express my wants? Uh, you know what I'm saying there? Like,
Of course, I know what you're saying, but we tacitly and we passively accept that, and we tacitly force ourselves to come to a diminished state in a diminished place where we give up responsibility to change that, and we think that's just the way that life should be, and I have no power over that, you know. And to me, at that point, you've already accepted death. You've chosen death, because you've chosen that, you've decided that you have no choice in the diminishment of your spirit, and that you have to live in a subdued and passive state in order to exist. So you're telling me immediately that you don't value your existence. But how does the man who values their existence act? How does the man who values their existence behave? What are they thinking? What are they choosing?
well, the minute you said, you've chosen death already, I immediately thought of the anti-heroic life.
Yes.
You're not living, you're not awakening the hero within. You're not realizing, oh, wow, I'm facing these difficulties right now. This is reality. This is my existence. It's impacting me in a certain way. And like, how do I tap into the inner strength and push through, and go on that hero's journey, whatever that is for the individual, to move beyond your limitations, to grow, to expand, to take in the information, to take in the knowledge, to take in the data from your environment, to make adjustments, to do what you need to do to get to the place that you want to get.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to awakening the hero within. I mean, how can you awaken the hero within without utilizing your mind?
Can't. Bro, these are fascinating conversations, man. And I think they're conversations that truly aren't had enough. I think people are too passive in the face of what they hate. And I think they're that way and then that way with each other, because they're able to dwell within the comfort of knowing that others couldn't solve the problem either, and others have also accepted, that this state of death that we're referring to. And to me, that whole thing is what constitutes the herd on some level, and like from the other side, it's like the matrix. It's curated for you to adopt that philosophy, for you to adopt this morality of death on some level. Because when there's a collective that's now in this passive, subdued, diminished state, as the saying goes, one noose for many necks, but for the hero, for the individual who's willing to look at himself and look at life and make the necessary effort and adjustments to get things to where in accordance with his highest values and goals, then you can't control that. There's nothing that anybody can do about that. And this at the crux of it, you hit the nail on the head. This is about awakening the hero within, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, these are topics, and these are conversations which really also are at the crux of Rise Above the Herd. And Rise Above the Herd is something that we haven't really spoken about properly in any deep kind of way on our podcast. So let's talk about that briefly, I think. Rise Above the Herd essentially is I don't know what the word is, but it is the culmination of the journey that Yerasimos and I have been on. And it is almost like it's a way for you to engage in the process to come out of mediocrity and to have the tools, the knowledge, and the transformative ability to become the hero of your own life. So yeah, it's an 8-week private group coaching program with both of us, where we truly address what it means to be the hero of your own life. And we address the programming that is keeping most people in that anti-heroic state within the herd.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, you said it well. I think the time is now for anyone that really the soil is fertile. Mm-hmm. For anyone that really wants to take their life to the next level, and continue to grow and expand and ultimately into the person that they were born to be. So if you are really into the things that we're talking about here and you dig it and you want to jump on a 20-minute call with Joel and myself, send either one of us a DM and we'll make that happen.
Yep. All right, man. Thank you so much for this conversation, bro.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for spearheading it. You're like, let's just get on a call and talk about it. All right, cool. Let's do it. Side chat number 3 or 4. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I'm not sure either, but I'm glad we had it. And I'm glad that whoever's hearing this is listening to it, because cool. I don't believe in coincidences either.
No, for sure. And again, thanks everyone who's on our page, who supports the podcast, who supports our Instagram and has listened to this whole thing. And yeah, keep doing your thing. And we're here to support you in any way we can.
Absolutely, guys. As always, links in the show notes, riseabovetheherd.com.au. We'll put that in the show notes also. And we'll see you on the main podcast. Peace.
Smoking mirrors, I'm seeing through the illusion. Waking up in a time, they think you're in a delusion. Somebody set the alarms, cause they be too busy snoozing. I'm in a DeLorean.